Or
we are ready.
Okay, all right, well, I'll get her going. Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's SBDC NASA Primes Lunch and Learn. Alan Bagley is a little under the weather today, so I'll be hosting today's session. The topic today is how to grow your business with NASA. We have two guest speakers that are going to discuss how they grew their businesses over the last 20 years at NASA. Before I get started, I wanted to mention that I've known both our guests for several years. I met them both when they were president of the NASA Johnson Space Center Small Business Council, and I was the NASA representative to the council. And this council has between 700 and 800 members. What stood out to me in working with both of them was their ability to bring members together, both in internal networking with the council and at industry events. And they were absolutely the best in bringing that group together. And I believe Denise is on her second term as president. With that, I'd like to introduce our first guest speaker, Denise Navarro, President, CEO of Logical Innovations Incorporated. She started her business in 1999 and has had tremendous growth over the past 22 years. She's headquartered in Houston, Texas. Logical Innovations specializes in financial and acquisition services, exhibits, management, strategic communications, outreach, training, education, information technology, administrative services, and logistical support. Logical Innovations' current and past federal clients include 9 of the 10 NASA centers, including headquarters, United States Agency for International Development, the U.S. Departments of Interior, Commerce, Defense, Homeland Security, and Transportation. Logical Innovations has also supported commercial energy industry clients. Logical is headquartered in 10 states, including Washington, D.C. Our second guest is Fernando Delphenia, who is president and CAO of AEXA, which has 20 years of successful leadership in technology and engineering. AEXA has contracts with several NASA centers and large prime contractors such as Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Teledyne Brown, and Alpha Space Test and Research Alliance. His services include holoportation, custom hologram development, training, consultation, and 3D printing. So the way we plan to do this is we're going to have each one of them mention a little bit about their company, mention some key points or key factors that help them grow their business, and then we're going to go right into question and answers. So if we could, let's begin with Fernando. Fernando?
Thank you, Rick. Very nice introduction. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon. Well, as Rick mentioned, I have a company. The name of the company is AEXA Aerospace. And we have a couple of products. One is holographic telecommunications or holoportation. We developed that for NASA. We are trying to expand our customers, but I'm very proud to say that we are pioneers in holographic communications in space. In addition to that, we also have manufacturing capabilities, 3D printing. We are working with a customer, Lockheed Martin. They are building a spacecraft called Lucy. And what we are doing for them is printing scale mock-ups using advanced manufacturing techniques. So essentially, we 3D print in aluminum, steel, resin, and several materials. So we are a combination of a services company and products company, which is great. As Rick mentioned, we have contracts with JSC at Marshall, which is in Huntsville, Alabama. and other centers, thanks to our network of customers like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Teledyne Brown, Leap Biotechnologies, among others. Now, in my experience, we are very small, but something that it was important for me was networking. They need to know you. They need to see what you are capable of. So as Rick mentioned, I was the chairman of the Johnson Space Center Small Business Council, but also I joined to every single organization in NASA. Networking is very important because they really need to know you and that you have the capability to do it. And when you are beginning, you don't have the full capability to be a prime, but you have the possibility of teaming with somebody like Denise Navarro. I team with her, she's my mentor. And that you can reach some agreements or joint ventures. And if you don't have all the capabilities, but if you know the right people, then you can leverage your capabilities and try to bid for a big contract. Also, in my experience, it's important to understand the culture. NASA has 10 main centers across the country. Every center has a complete different culture. The Johnson Space Center is more about training astronauts. It's more like a community, like a college community. Everybody helps each other. The campus is built based on a college campus. The Marshall Space Flight Center, they're inside of the Redstone Arsenal, which is a military base. You can see more like a military culture over there. So if you plan to bid or you try to get a contract with NASA, also understand the contract of each of the centers. Another point is be resilient, and that's important. Resilience is the capability of withstand a shock without keeping your shape, right? So resilient means like if you're bid on a contract and then you lost and say, hey, you didn't get it. Be resilient, understand what went wrong, what can you improve and improve it. Team with somebody if you need it and try again. So that's important. And lastly, I believe what works is try to find a unique product. Everybody will have a capability statement. Don't write all the next code. That's one of the first mistakes. You want to tailor to some next codes, maybe 2, 3, and then develop something unique. What's your differentiator with another companies? For instance, in our case, services. Everybody provides engineering services. What is different about us, we are providing holographic telecommunications. That's a niche product, and I believe that's important. Lastly, I'm going to repeat again, teaming. Somebody already know the road, they already have contracts, they know how to, they have a reputation. Team with somebody. I'm teaming, for example, with Denise, I say it again, and it's a great venture, and I'm learning a lot from her. So if it will be my advice, it's just networking, understand the culture, find a product, be resilient, and team if you can. Thank you, Rick.
Okay, and Denise? Over
Hi,
to you.
everyone. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to speak here today, and especially to share the stage with my talented and inspiring friend, Fernando. That's a tough act to follow. And he gave you so many words of wisdom, and I'm looking at my notes going, okay, he said that. Yep, he said that. So, so we have similar stories. So, you know, as Rick mentioned with his really nice introduction, I always have to listen to that and go, oh yeah, that's me. I'm Denise Navarro, President, CEO, and founder of Logical Innovations. And as he said, in a nutshell, you know, we're a provider of business and technical services for the federal government. But, you know, of course, you know, we're so much more than that. We're headquartered in Houston, and we are located across the country, including Alabama, California, Florida, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, Nevada, New Mexico, Ohio, of course, Texas, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. And I can tell you that most of these locations are due to our presence across NASA. We're at 9 different NASA locations in total. So bear with me as I share some tidbits of my story to understand, you know, kind of the path I took to get there. So I'm a planner, and I incorporated Logical Innovations in 1999. I had started working, I would say I grew up work as a NASA contractor. I started working at NASA JSC in 1984. And it was just one of those, I grew up in the Houston area. So NASA Johnson Space Center was in my backyard. That I knew that was my dream. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be part of this wonderful agency called NASA. And so I just worked at it. And so I started my career in 1984 there. I was obtaining my education simultaneously. So I first took a technical path. So I have, a couple of technical degrees. And then I knew that I wanted to really kind of veer off and to be able to grow a business. So I went into a management path and pursued my MBA. So my education really kind of formed the foundation for what ended up becoming Logical Innovation. And so when I started the company, my core competencies were really a reflection of my own career resume, because I had just, I was one of those that said, I can't learn unless I do. So every time there was an opportunity, I just raised my hand, and I'm still raising my hand to this day, just to keep growing and going. And so, one of the things I emphasize is it doesn't happen overnight. But if you keep going, and Fernando talked about this resilience, you just have to, just be persistent and just believe in yourself and just keep it going, because you're going to have a lot of, you're going to fall a little bit along the way, but as Fernando mentioned, learn from those losses. There's valuable lessons in there. And I can tell you some of our best wins at NASA were our second and even third time around at trying, because we learned, because we go to the customer and say, okay, where did we fall short? And then I'd always tell them, okay, I'll be back. And, and as Fernando mentioned, he gets around to all the NASA centers. I make sure I get out there, I visit all the NASA centers. That's why COVID's killing me, because I really love being out there with everyone and being able to visit and see everyone. And now that we have employees everywhere, it's just so amazing to go and, walk the halls of the NASA centers and see people wearing your badge, your lanyard, and, they're part of your big logical family. But, keeping in themes that, as Fernando talked about, some top pieces of advice, and I have to say, I'm one that I'm always learning. And so I'm always seeking advice. And Fernando, referred to me as his mentor, but I have to tell you, there's a lot of cross mentoring. You learn from everyone. So, don't take it for granted that you never know it all, right? So, and it really does help to be receiving. I would say you have two ears and one mouth, so there's a reason for that. But one thing, really know your company and all you have to offer. NASA has needs across the spectrum of competencies. So there could be a fit somewhere within the agency, and it may not be the center or the location that's closest to you. So that's a decision you have to make on what you want to do, how far you want to stretch your reach. And you always hear about doing your homework, and it's true. As you understand your own offerings and what you can offer your customers, you need to make sure that you're at the right location, that what they need is what you offer. And then, respond to those sources sought and requests for information that the agency puts out. Across the federal government, they're always saying that because they're doing their market research. So show what you have to offer. And then maybe, they'll understand the level of expertise in a business like yours and be able to make sure it's a set aside for what you're looking for. Seek the advice of those small business specialists. They're across NASA, they're at headquarters, and they're every center. They are your strongest allies. And again, listen to the advice they give you. They'll set you on the right path, but it's up to you to make it happen. Fernando talked about, knowing those primes, knowing the large and the small businesses, because they're your network. Grow your network, make friends. I said, we do business with people, not logos. So it's really important that we maintain our network. We maintain, this group of people, trusted allies, those that have the same values and ethics as you, because that's important. As you're growing your reputation, you want to make sure you have people surrounding you that have similar values and ethics. And then, just lastly, it takes work. You just got to work at it. It's not going to happen overnight again, but stick with it, listen and grow. You know, when I was just starting, I mean, I was a army of one, but I sought an opportunity. I was direct billable until I needed, you know, I knew I needed to back off and really just grow my business. But sometimes you got to, you know, take that low hanging fruit. Sometimes you're not the right size. You're not what the customer needs at that time. So listen to what they're telling you and repackage yourself. One of my biggest wins came was when I'd been marketing an opportunity for 5 years. And I knew that the customer looked at me and said, "You're not quite the right size." So I reached out to one of my trusted business partners, and we formed a joint venture. And then we became the right size. We went back in, we marketed, and we won. And so you just have to really listen and understand. And if you need to repackage yourself in such a way, you know, your partners, your network, do it. You know, so, you know, I got to tell you, you know, it's not a job for me. It's my life, and it's my passion. And so I always say, you know, I wake up really excited every day because you never know what the day is going to bring. So almost 15 years in as a company, and gosh, what, 37 years in my career, I'm still happy waking up, you know, ready to take on the day. So, so I'm really excited to be here, and I hopefully, you know, gave you some information you can take away and kind of think about it. So, Rick, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay. All right. So we're going to start the question and answer. Does anybody have a question out there?
I do have a question, and this is for Fernando. And so would holographic communication look a whole lot like Princess Leia saying, "Help me"? That's the first question.
It does. Exactly. It does like that. We have a video that we put it together for a proposal. Denise and myself, we teamed together. So if you go to my website, aexa.com, under Holoportation, on that Holoportation tab, you can watch a real video of that holographic telecommunication. But it's like that, just in color. It's a better resolution.
Okay. Do we have another one out there? Okay. So I have a couple. How do you pick the events that you're going to go attend? We all know you have limited resources. So you can't just shotgun to all the events. And of course, events will start, be starting back up here fairly soon, in-person events. So how do you decide which ones you're going to go to, and which ones kind of surprised you that you went to, that you actually made some connections? Well, either one of you.
I'll start. I can tell you that I always look at what gives me the biggest bang for my buck, because you do have limited resources, time, money, travel, things like that. So really, I always look and say, okay, who's scheduled to be there? And then I will pick my target to say, okay, I want to talk to these people, or maybe I'm tracking an opportunity and maybe the buyer or someone within the organization is going to be there. And so I always have like kind of my hit list. Okay, I'm going to accomplish this before. And then of course, I make sure I don't, there's no hand that goes unshook by me. So I make sure I get those bonuses. I think some of the ones that have surprised me are probably those that I maybe didn't have. So as you can probably imagine, my biggest association is with NASA. So I know everyone, when I go to these NASA events, it's great. So when I go to another agency and I make this really awesome connection, or I find someone that I've known from a previous life or something like that, and then something actually results from that. Those are always the biggest, surprises and really nice surprises.
Okay.
I want to add something, and what Denise just said this was correct. What I do also, I have a pipeline with possible contracts, something that I'm tracking in the future. And with that pipeline, I'm also trying to find events related about the pipeline. Like if there's going to be a webinar or a meeting in person that will give me more information about that specific product or that specific service, or if in my pipeline or future contracts that I'm forecasting, I'm interested in a new capability that maybe I will be able to develop, then I say, okay, I need to attend to this webinar. Let me give you a quick example. Air Force. We submitted a proposal. No, it was the Army, I believe. We submitted a proposal for the Army. We lost, but we never received our debrief. What happened? Later on, we received an invitation from the Department of Defense Rapid Development Technology Office. And they say, hey, do you want to send a one-word summary about your capability? We're going to evaluate 1,400 companies. I said, oh, okay, that's good. We did it. They called us and say, okay, you were selected with another 30 companies. And we made a presentation. It went very well. But my point is, when you're trying to forecast like new customers, like I believe I was trying to forecast the Army and attended to the webinar and then submitted a proposal. I got a different customer, but just trying to target one event, it took me to another one. So just have a pipeline, and that will help you also to decide which event to attend or which event do not to attend.
Okay, thank you. Now on, and let me pick a specific topic here, holoportation. And Fernando, I know I've sat through some of the groups with the augmented reality and some of the other, and they're, it's a fairly large group. But what I didn't see them do is what you began to do. You started pushing forward, especially on the holoportation aspect. So one of the things that when I talk to the chief technologists, they tell me is, we're not going to tell you, hey, we think this would be cool if we could get this, or we think this would be great. We're not going to tell you exactly what we're trying to do, because we're not exactly sure which direction is going to work best. So a lot of times we will throw something out that's fairly vague. So when you started to move in this direction, was it because people said, hey, this is something that you ought to be looking at, or you heard about it? And why is it that you went forward with that? And I must say, you're one of the only ones that I know that has actually moved in that direction. And that seems to be one that especially the chief technologists are kind of excited about.
Well, let me give you a little background information. Yes, but this began like 5 years ago. We heard that NASA was flying the HoloLens, some holographic goggles, and they were looking for applications for that. In my company, we developed some training software using those HoloLens for NASA. Then we customized the software trying to aim for holoportation. We use it during the NASA Extreme Environment Mission Operation, NEMO 22 and NEMO 23, which is an undersea lab in Florida. We have astronauts training under the sea, simulating an analog mission to the space. Meanwhile, you have the NASA surgeons at the Johnson Space Center. We use it in the NEMO 22. We use it on NEMO 23, which was 2 different years, 2018, 2019. They got excited. They say, okay, I'm interested to see more. So nobody had that need, or nobody told me like, hey, we are interested in holographic telecommunications, just as you said. They say, that's intriguing. We want to see more. And then we push forward, trying to develop that unique capability. And right now, we got all the approvals from the board, and it's going to be soon on the station. But it's a full process. You are completely right. Nobody's going to tell you, we want this. It's like, that looks interesting. Tell me more.
Okay, thank you. Of the networking that you've done, And obviously, and I like your discussion, Denise, that you just have to get out there and keep pushing on the networking. But what kind of networking really worked best for you?
Oh, you know, I think it just comes over the years of knowing people and keeping connected with those people. You know, you talk about the events. I mean, I can tell you, you know, some key people that I've met and I continue to work with and to, you know, brainstorm with. And, you know, I can tell you what event or where I met them along the way. So it's just, I think it's just all about people, and then just getting to know people. Because we all switch badges along the way. And, you know, if you're not a business owner, you know, you've been, or as a business owner, actually, you know, you were somewhere else before you got to to actually establishing your business. So you've met people along the way. So don't discard them, because, you know, there's some really, you know, I've made some really valuable, wonderful friends along the way, and I keep them, you know, with me. And so it's just, you know, making sure that you have some, you know, clear connections. You know, for instance, no one would even think that Fernando, with his cool holoportation, I always said, beam me up, Scotty, kind of, I mean, it's just amazing technology. I mean, I'm just like a little kid when I'm watching his videos and, you know, all this. And then for someone like me, who's been really focused, probably 80% of our work on the business side of the house, you wouldn't even think there would be a connection, and yet there is. And there's a very good synergy when we come together to work and brainstorm and look at how our two worlds can come together. So I think that's really important, to make sure you cast out that net and you cast it out wide. And, you know, and then, you know, like I said, it's just making that connection with people.
Okay, thank you.
Rick,
In
I think
dealing with
Vito has a
crime, oh,
question.
somebody got a question?
Yes, thank you, Rick. This is
Yeah.
Dejo here. Hey, Fernando, this is kind of follow up with Rick's last question, and your mention that the technologist's response was kind of vague, and you took that as a sign and a lead to kind of go further and develop. Would you kind of speak around what kind of process? Was it a formal process? Was it an informal process? Was it all intuition based? How you went about identifying the lane around which you needed to develop your technology to be responsive? What did that look like, that discovery process, if you may? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, let me tell you, the discovery process essentially is, you need to be very agile, because I had something in mind, like, oh yeah, I want to develop this way. And one of the surgeons say, hey, it will be look if we can have this kind of requirement, I holoport myself to the station. And that was kind of the first sign. And we started developing on that. As you are getting some traction, the snowball grows. And at some point, that snowball from interacting with one people, now you're interacting with 96 people with different requirements. And what it seems to be like kind of sign like, that's cool, I want to hear more of that. Terms like, yeah, we want to use it, it needs to be under these requirements. Let me give you an example. Couple of weeks ago, before the final panel to get the approval, somebody say, yeah, we have a requirement. Your holographic teleportation works with 10 megabits per second, the bandwidth of 10 megabits per second, which is the typical bandwidth that you use with your smartphone. If you are watching YouTube, you use about 10 megabits per second. They say, yeah, NASA is going to implement a different network and you only have 5 megabits per second. Can you do it in the next 2 weeks, or otherwise we need to wait until another expedition arrives to the station, like another maybe 6 months? And you say, no, you know what, I can do it. And we are agile and resilient, like we said, and we did it. After we did it, you get more traction, because they say, okay, this company can really move fast enough. So those big requirements, like I want to hear more, came into solid requirements. Yeah, can you tailor this? It will be super cool if you can do that. And it's just hearing your people and understand the situation. And another lesson, that happened in a different contract for me, it's be a very good team member because the opportunities come this way. I heard from Disney a quote that I love, which is, "It's not my fault, but now it's my problem." So what happened with NASA, you interact with too many companies, and sometimes you see something that may damage your product or something. Well, do your best to fix it. And that helps you to understand or get more signs from also other companies like, hey, maybe NASA will love to see this. So you will have signs from your customer, but also you can have signs from other contractors like, hey, maybe you do this, that will help you to improve your reputation.
Got it. Thank you very much. And just as if you have time for another follow-on question.
Oh, you bet.
Yeah, thank you, Rick. Would you talk about the intellectual property assignments in an engagement like that? What did it look like, and what was the negotiation around that?
It's different. The short answer is, if NASA is paying you to develop something, NASA owns it. NASA is the owner of that. For instance, we have a holographic training application. Is called the Holo Wizard, which we use to train astronauts and payloads, specialists from Marshall to the Johnson Space Center. We own the application. Inside that application, NASA asks us to interact and develop some training components and replicate some modules of the space station. NASA paid for that, and NASA owns that. So the negotiation is, at least on my side, what I have been trying to do is keeping the core product for my company, so I will be able to sell it to other companies or other customers. And then the specific requirements or specific sub-products, just give that to the customer. But it's a negotiation. There are several ways to negotiate that, and patent everything. So what we have, it's a lot of patents, or just to play safe, because you never know. You develop something, and maybe in the future we'll get some traction. But if you didn't patent, somebody can get your idea.
So who pays for the patent costs in a case like that? Is it NASA, or is it you, or is it a hybrid?
Well, what we develop, we patent.
Okay.
What NASA develops, I believe they have their own patent system. And maybe Rick will know more about that.
Yeah, as far as that, we had always said Johnson Space Center had a patent attorney. So whenever those kind of questions would have come up, our first move was to get with the patent attorney at the center and start to have discussions there, because they were the only ones who could untangle that.
Got it.
Okay, here's another question. For either one of you, as you're beginning to develop a new product, a new service, but it's one that really is out there and requires some innovation, whether it's business or technical, at what point and how do you look at hiring some folks, and how do you start looking at that? How do you sort of put the business case together, and more importantly, what type of personalities do you really look for when you're going to do that? Denise, you could start.
Okay. Now I laugh when he says personalities, because we have some little running jokes between the three of us. But yeah, sometimes you look at these opportunities or these different efforts that you want to be involved with, and you do a gap analysis, because we can't all do it on our own, right? So you have to look for the right partners. But if there's something that you want to build internally and say, I really want to build this competency. So I'll give you an example. My two grown children work with me, and they have very different skill sets. They have very different backgrounds and experiences. And, but they were with me from the beginning, when we were putting together our first proposal and the dining room table. punching holes, doing white glove, the whole 9 yards. So they had an appreciation for what it was taking and what it would take to build a company. So when they decided they would gradually move to come on board with me, I had an opportunity to kind of fall on my lap at the end of the year. We were an 8A company, and you know, on the government side, you know that there's end of year funds, and you got these, you know, you can earmark projects. And so there was a statement of work I got actually from the Army. Had never done any work with the Army, and it was really outside of my comfort zone. It was building exhibits and telling the story of the 1st Cavalry Division to promote the visitors to go to the actual visitor center. But it was at the headquarters facility where they would welcome the families, they would welcome dignitaries. So it was really a cool project. I couldn't spell exhibits. I mean, you know, but my son happened to have a degree in communication and then a master's in digital media services. And so he understood, and he had just come from working with the state of Texas. And when this opportunity came, I gave him the statement of work and I said, if you can make this happen, this is your first project with us. He took it on, and it was a success. He rolled it out in ahead of schedule, under budget, and that led to the work that we have now at NASA, at visitor centers, at managing exhibits, managing events. So it actually, from that project, grew our new competency, where we can offer strategic communications, outreach, and exhibits expertise within NASA. So you just never know. I mean, so just because it's not in your comfort zone doesn't mean you don't have the resources, you don't have the reach to get the folks that understand that and can help you build those competencies. And then it really paid off, and it really helped us to grow a new area of offerings for our customers. So there's talent out there, you got to recognize it. And if it's something that you want to grow, then you just got to go find those subject matter experts and make it happen. Another thing we did, and because you don't necessarily have to, go out and hire all these people, right? So we actually have a group of what I call our subject matter experts. And some of these are retired NASA folks, or they're retired faculty members, or they're folks that just like to work projects on their own. And we bring them in as we need to, and that's part of our network, and going like, who do we know with this kind of talent? You know, maybe it's a talent outside of what our core competency is, or maybe it's just something we need to just further enhance that we have, but we think we could just be stronger. And then that's where your network comes in, just going out, knowing where the experts are, and having them join your team and help you move forward.
Okay, thank you. Primes, trying to work with primes. And I've heard for a long time that trying to get on the prime's preferred provider list, and to actually get the attention of the primes, even if you meet with them at these events, trying to actually get their attention, get on the list so they would actually send you an RFQ is very difficult. And that's putting it mildly. How did you approach that? Either one. Yeah. Fernando, I think you want to do that, Fernando?
Well, in my limited experience, what I can tell you is the primes, they talk each other. So first of all, just to give you an example, customers like Raytheon or Lockheed Martin, they use that same system for vendors. It's called ExoStar. So, and what happened is, it's the same platform, and they will provide us a score. Like if we deliver, the quality of the delivery, everything. So first of all, when you approach a new prime, you know that they talk to each other. So you bring your past performance, you bring your 3 best contracts for that opportunity, and say, hey, I can take this opportunity to the next level if you give me a chance to do it. And here is my past performance, and you can talk with my previous customers, and they will do that. The best way to approach it is that. The second is, know your customer. Before you speak with the prime, try to understand what they do, what they need, how can you help them. if you already know that, do your homework, what they need from you, or how can you help them, what they do, that will help you to create a story, because you have like an elevator pitch. If you just deliver your capability statement and try to talk about your company, they will say, yeah, thank you, but they will file it with another 100 capability statements. But do you say, hey, elevator pitch, this is who I am, I can help you with this opportunity that you're looking for, or this specific contract, this is what I can bring to the table, and here is my past performance. I believe that's key to open a very good conversation. Just to give you another example, with a company, KBR Wiley, we are trying to nail something with them, but the conversation began with what we do, with the contract that you have, how can I help you in your contract, and here is my past performance. So that it's a differentiator trying to open negotiations with the prime.
Okay. Thank you. How and Fernando, how important is it to get that information to the primes? Is it, does a capability statement, having a good capability statement that has that information, is that good? Is it talking to them? Is it both? Because cracking that wall, getting through that wall is difficult. And I've never heard of anybody who said it was easy. So, what approach would you advise people, especially if they're starting, cold?
Well, in my limited experience, one is networking. We got a contract thanks to my NASA mentor with one of the primes. But also it's capability statement, be brief. They will be reading thousands of capability statements, and just try to think what they have in their mind. Oh, here's another possible vendor telling me that they are the best. So just try to make it quick, value their time, say, hey, I'm here for this opportunity. Tailor your capability statement for that prime. Don't deliver the same capability statement for everybody. Tailor it with the story for that prime, and just say, I'm here to help you with this. Here is my capability statement. Please allow me to tell you more. And networking. Networking is very, very important, because that will help you to open the door, and then having a referral always helps. But as an advice, tailor your capability statement. Don't show the same capability statement for every prime.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd like to add to that, because Fernando's really modest, because now, I mean, Fernando's doing some very cool, unique things. And so when you think of these types of activities and I mean, just case in point, if someone came to me and said, hey, I'm looking for a business that does, this kind of really outside of the box thinking. And I always say, oh, let me do an email intro to Fernando, because his reputation, precedes him. And I think that's what's important about making sure that you build your reputation. You make sure you have, like you said, make sure there's something that discriminates you, that sets you off from the rest of them, whether it's your product, whether it's your attention to detail, whether it's, the way you treat people. There's always something that kind of puts you a little bit above the pack. And that's the thing, you just really have to work on it and then build that. And then, help others, because as we say, no one company can do it all. So if someone comes to you and they're looking for something and it's not you, share when there's another small business out there who has those qualifications. And then, just, a little bit of paying it forward.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else get any questions out there?
I just want to chime in and say congratulations to you guys, because I'll tell you, nobody knows how hard it is to do the kinds of things that you have done. It takes a tremendous amount of work and dedication, and hats off to you. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laurie. Well, if that's all the questions, I'm going to thank.
I got one more, Rick.
Okay, go ahead.
So this is a general question. So So would you all talk to us about a little bit about your research and development methodology? For example, is all your research and development done in-house? Do you work with universities? Do you work with federal labs? How is that sourced in terms of building out your portfolio? Thank you.
So D, all of the above.
Okay.
I mean, and yeah, no, I'm not trying to be funny, but really you just kind of have to look at what it is you're looking at and what's the best fit for that particular activity. If you can do it in-house, great, but sometimes, you know, again, leverage your partnerships. For instance, you know, there's some things that Fernando and I are pursuing together, and we're partnering with some local educational institutions. And with that partnership comes their resources, their labs and things like that. So we've learned how to leverage partners, and partners come in, you know, in different capacities. It's not just businesses, it is those educational institutions. Sometimes it's another, it even could be a federal agency, you know, so it just depends on what that subject is and how you find the best path to pursue that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any others? Okay. Bijou, did you have one? I see your name, your face came back up again.
No, I just asked. I was just going on mute. So thank you, Rick.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Fernando, and thank you, Denise. You did a great job, and we truly appreciate your time. And we know your time is short, so and resources always limited. So we really want to thank you for participating today, and we want to thank everybody who participated in the session today.
Thank you.
So thank you, Rick, for keeping us in mind too. I guess we're part of your network too, right?
You definitely will always be part of my network. All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending today, and we hope to see you next Friday.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Rick.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to sign off.
Okay, good job.
All righty. Thanks. It's tough. Alan's a tough one to follow. I tell you, he's just